And thank you so much for staying with us. Now, South African households are financially stressed, and I'm sure that doesn't come as much of a surprise to anyone. But according to the 8th Momentum Unisa Household Financial Wellness Index, this is also borne out. And it revealed that behaviour is the most critical component to financial success, irrespective of income or social standing. And while unavoidable macro factors like petrol prices, the international and local policy landscape still influence household financial success, there are also our own behavioral factors that drive this as well. So for more on this, I'm joined here in studio by Jacolize Meiring, Econometrician and researcher, and Nontokozo Madonsela, who is a Group Marketing Officer at Momentum Metropolitan. Ladies, thanks for joining us this morning. Just for interest's sake, an econometrician, Jacolize, what is that? What do you do?
That's basically combining the worlds of statistics and economics. So the data that talks to me and confesses that I torture the data until it confesses.
So let's start there. This data that you had actually collected, what did it say to you?
Well, basically, we've done this survey, as you already mentioned. It's been the 8th year running now that we're running this collaboration with Momentum. And the data is indicating that despite some minor improvements in education and on the net wealth side for households in South Africa, we're basically seeing that people are feeling very, very, very disempowered and hopeless. That's one of the major, that's the lowest score of our index. So that's the main thing. But our message that we want to broadcast for this index is basically then it starts with me.
Yeah.
So that's the personal empowerment, though it's the largest or the lowest score, we basically can do something. South Africans can do something about it.
And we'll talk to that in a little while. But Nontokozo, why is Momentum Metropolitan interested in this type of data?
So we're interested in this type of data as the momentum side of the business because we are about success, we're about enabling success, and we have advisors who help clients on their journeys. But it starts with knowing, it starts with understanding, and it starts with myself. So we feel that for individuals to even achieve their ambitions, that there's certain behaviors that they've got to be mindful of and work harder at changing. Some of that is, for example, how much do I know about the financial impact or the financial activity in my household? So there's a term that's called the FKP. I kept on saying to the team, oh, I want to be a good FKP. But FKP means financially knowledgeable person. And what we are finding even is where there are more than one party is responsible for paying the bills in the house. Usually women are less financially aware than men. So for us as a brand, we've been championing women, and that statistic that says women are least likely to have a will, least likely to understand what their financial futures could look like in providing for the children, etc. We want to bring that information and that understanding.
So that's very interesting. In other words, where there are two parties, a man and a woman in the household, the woman is likely to cede financial responsibility to the male counterpart.
Yes, definitely. We saw that in general, women tend to actually focus more on the short term and not on the long term. So placing retirement planning and that on the back end, where and leaving that long-term planning more to their male counterparts or their partners, because women necessarily need to take sometimes a break from employment to look after children and their parents, where the males continue on that process and jumping their career. So we really want to empower women as well with the research to just say that it is in your control, and it's time for women to actually take control of their financial futures and be involved in household finances with their partners.
But what does it mean to be financially knowledgeable? What does that actually entail?
Counter to what Stats SA tend to talk to the household head, the financial knowledgeable person, because our survey is so extensive and such detail that we require from them to provide detailed information on income sources, expenditure, actually exact amounts that they need to spend it on. We need to speak to someone that actually knows everything about the household's finances to get the most accurate view. So therefore, a financial knowledgeable person would be someone that understands and knows what's happening in their household's finances.
And, you know, when we think about it in the South African landscape, most of our nuclear families are headed by females. We have single parent families more than we do have your traditional family setup. How does that get borne out in this particular survey in terms of how women fare? Because we know now where there's a male counterpart, they tend to cede, but where she is it in the household, how does that compare?
I'm not sure if there's any data differences that you observed in terms of those dynamics.
Yes, I can just allude to that. With the index, we basically look at 5 pillars that are sustainable to each and every household that we try to look at. So it's education, we look at their income, we look at their net wealth, we look at their living conditions, and then we look at their levels of personal empowerment. Now, in all 5 of those, the only one where the women FKP household, so where the woman was the financial knowledgeable person in our survey, the only place was with living conditions. So that's where you actually stay, your environment. And that could be due to some policies like your RDP housing. And we also see some data from Lightstone that actually say that your women are tending to be the most buyers of your smaller properties. They tend to be that. So there is some strides being made there. But with each and every of the other 4 aspects, women are worse off. So those women households, especially on the social empowerment part, we see there's a big difference. So women tend to feel helpless. But a very interesting thing from our survey is that when asked, can you take control? Can you change? Women tend to be more positive on that, saying, if I set my mind to something, I will be able to change it. So therefore, we are calling basically for women to also take control and then be part of the household finances, because together we can do it better.
So then, Nontokozo, what is good financial behavior? What are some of these behaviors that we are after?
So we all know that with any good idea or ambition it requires a plan. So it starts with knowing that actually I've got to have a plan in mind, whether it is that you plan when you want to own property, when you want to pay off your debt, how you want to go on holiday, what you need to do for your children. It requires a plan. We also know that especially the more affluent clients have complex needs. You need advice. You need advisors, because sometimes what you consider as maybe you still have enough time to save towards your retirement, we've got people who understand the actual living expenses, projected in 20 years' time, and what that might mean for your tax, etc. So you need advisors. The third thing is, when we plan or we have a budget, a lot of us don't even write it down. The budget, I mean, I'm one of those people, sometimes it falls. The budget is in my head.
It's too depressing. It's very depressing, the stuff.
But the more you write down, the more you look at even how much are you paying towards your bank fees? How much are you spending on petrol? How much are you spending on your unplanned lunches and dinners that you actually, the Uber Eats that you get delivered to your house? How much do you spend on that? So the sense of writing down and reviewing is quite important. And then lastly, I think, is financial literacy. Just educating yourself, knowing what is it that makes me financially well and better off, and what is it that doesn't, and how do you talk between yourself, the advisor, and the bank, and whoever you've got a financial commitment with. So I think understanding this landscape of money and being appropriately educated is very necessary.
And I think that's critical, because I've just gone through this very exercise recently, got everything done, got the will done, but it was extremely depressing, because I had then to realize that I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to be able to sustain my lifestyle given what I have or maybe what I don't have at the moment. So you know, and then we're talking, you know, when someone says to you, so effectively what you should be paying towards a policy right now is 5,000 Rand a month, and like, where's that supposed to come from? So it is very depressing, all of this information. But Jacolize, just going back to the survey, because we know now that across the board families do feel distressed, and I think many of us can relate to that. But just looking at the various categories that you outlined, let's just talk to them, you know, when they are stable, when they are exposed, what does it all mean?
Well, basically at the top end we have the financial well category. So there we have only 25.5% of households can actually be classified as being financially well in South Africa. Because I should just add, our survey is actually a nationally representative survey. So it is not just amongst 3,000 households that we did this year. So it's not just a dipstick, but it's actually a national representative survey. From the other side, on the other end, we have 1.8% of households that's in the distressed position. So those households are actually in dire straits. They need serious intervention to actually move them up the financial wellness and financial success journey. But if we then look to those two groups in the middle, there are certain actions and certain activities that those households can take that can move them to the financial well category. We actually did just a ballpark figure calculation, and to see that approximately 1.5 million households, by just doing certain activities, can actually move to the financial well category.
Such as?
So just doing certain activities, as Nontokozo mentioned, drawing up a will, having a written down budget, doing just your general planning for the long term, so your retirement planning as well. Then we're looking towards getting financial literacy. So it's certain activities that you can, as a household, take control over and then stick to your budget. I should just mention that. So it doesn't help to just have your budget written down, but actually sticking to it to make not just ends meet, but paying yourself something by saving and saving for the future.
And many people would say, you know, we talk about the budget, we talk about the saving, and the reason why people don't do this is because there isn't money.
Yeah.
Like, and this is the stark reality.
Yeah.
This is what we refer to as the working poor.
Yeah.
You go to work, but, you know, we see these memes, the funny ones at the end of the month, but actually it's not so funny. This is people's reality.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that the insights we got from this report is not everyone who earns little is financially unwell. Usually the people who earn little are a lot more responsible and aware about where their money goes, because they've got to stretch that last cent. It's the other people on the other side who are paid reasonably well, who are in the financially unwell. And actually we are less, think about it. I know, you know, people who know exactly how much a loaf of bread costs, a liter of milk costs, moving from point A to point B by taxi, school fees, and every rand. Like, I've got 10,000, I'll make sure that everything is, the electricity bill paid. And then some of us who just, you know, as long as the card swipes, as long as the transaction goes through.
I concede, you know, and that is the reality of the situation. But perhaps what needs to happen is that we need to inform young people. Maybe this needs to be infused into the curriculum, and we need to make more work of this at a younger stage, so that when people get to the work of the world of work, they already have those habits ingrained, because it's very tough to teach an old dog new tricks, you know.
Definitely.
I must say, last week I actually asked, I didn't know what the price of a plastic bag is. And later on it became a thing for me, because it speaks to exactly what Nontokozo was talking about, where we take so much for granted. As you sit there right now, do you know what a loaf of bread costs? Do you know what a liter of milk costs? Especially those who just go and swipe it through? Do you actually know what it costs? So I think, thank you so much, ladies, for stopping by. Really eye-opening. Jacolize Meiring, Econometrician and researcher, and Nontokozo Madonsela, Group Marketing Officer at Momentum Metropolitan, talking to us about the 8th Momentum Unisa Household Financial Wellness Index, and one thing that we really have to apply our minds and think about more carefully. Let's take a break.